Hello, my name is Clara Morse, and I am here to entertain, to amaze, but mainly to draw. So let's get started. First off, I'm going to start by showing you my sketch, and then you'll see some of my line art while I tell you the story of the character. So, the sketch. I did forget to record the sketch, so here's a picture instead. And now the line art. So let's get started, guys. Clea Sharde, aka the Hero Looking Glass. She is 5'10" and around 25 years old when her story starts. A couple of decades ago, heroes began to arise in the form of anti-men. Anti-men refers to anyone in my world that has a specific gene that can present itself in a variety of ways, giving people all types of superpowers. Clea's grandfather was an anti-man just like her. Her grandfather, the original Looking Glass, was one of the very first to join what came to be known as the First Hero Era. The OG Looking Glass spent years of his life chasing down several criminal organizations that were led by fellow anti-men who had decided to use their abilities for nefarious means. In the end, the largest of these organizations had been completely dismantled by the hero, but sadly, its leader was left in the wind. As the world moved on around him, Looking Glass retired from hero work and several others followed, leaving very few supers still active. World leaders scrambled to try to keep the shrinking age of heroes alive, but in the end, people died, and as danger lessened, so did the amount of anti-men. Most commonly, the anti-man gene will awaken in times of great distress. The level of danger can sometimes even affect the power level of an individual's ability. With the age of peace secured by the First Era, horrible, unforeseen consequences would be felt by the Second. Clea, just like her grandfather, becomes the pioneer of this second wave of crime fighters. As a child, she had heard about her grandfather's exploits and was amazed by his one-of-a-kind glass manipulation powers. After her mother never inherited the gene, Clea thought that there was no chance that she would. Until one day, while playing in her backyard, climbing a tree, a high branch snapped beneath her, sending Clea plummeting towards the ground. When she hit leg first, instead of the expected pain, she was instead met with the sound of glass shattering. Looking down, Clea found that the bottom half of her leg was now broken off and also made of glass. After the initial shock, she was able to recognize her grandfather's powers. She now had several abilities awaken, including being able to turn her body to glass, shatter it, and reassemble at will. Being able to manipulate the hardness of glass and control glass after touching it. The latter is a form of telekinesis. She was also born half blind, and now her formerly non-working eye could see a reflection of the world, which also allowed her to determine people's true nature. Her grandfather helped her learn to control her powers, though her abilities were far more extensive than his own. Clea's life continued on relatively normally into her adult years until the year 2030, when she was halfway through her master's degree in psychology and the original Looking Glass passed away. His death marked the official end of the First Hero Era, as most other heroes had died, been inactive for years, or had gone missing. Panic spread across the world as authorities struggled to manage as superpowered or technologically enhanced criminals became more and more common. Several plans had been proposed over the years, even including cloning old heroes, but that was deemed heavily unethical and was shut down quickly. Somehow, in all the chaos, a young man who had inherited his father's tech company went on live TV to announce his own ideas for the second hero era. Jackson Brickton told the world that he wished to sponsor any powered individual who wanted to use their anti-man gene for the betterment of the world. Initially, it would start out as a US-based program, but with the help of the World Union, he hoped to expand globally. Clea did not like the sound of it from the beginning. Jack Brickton's wealth and influence had come out of seemingly nowhere. Sure, his dad's company was successful, but not anywhere near the scale that it was today. And paying for strangers in the hopes that they would become superheroes sounded so sketchy it never crossed her mind to join. Her friend Nico, however, would not stop pestering her about joining up. They had met years ago while touring the university that they both ended up attending. After being friends for a while, Clea told him about her powers, and his interest in superheroes only grew as she shared some of her grandfather's personal accounts from his active days. Apparently, Nico had heard that Brickton would pay off any student debts for potential participants in this program. This is the only aspect that sounded interesting and also extremely sketchy to her. At the same time, still, Clea remained uninterested in the prospects of becoming a superhero. When she was younger, Clea had entertained the idea, but it never seemed fully possible or secure. After all, very few from the first era had made it to retirement like her grandfather did. Occasionally, though, she would use her powers to help when the opportunity arose, even using her mirrored vision to get a woman out of a bad situation on the street, and bulletproof glass skin to protect herself against criminals who had tried to retaliate against her later that day. Of course, like most people using their powers in public, someone filmed the altercations, and even more people found out about her legacy status as the grandchild of a former hero. Her parents had managed to keep her name out of publications after the original Looking Glass's funeral, but the news spread like a wildfire when the video was leaked. Brickton saw this and has had an idea on how to entice people to join his program. Meanwhile, Clea began to notice familiar patterns in a seemingly unconnected string of crimes on the news. They almost identically matched the signature of the organization her grandfather had taken years of his life to destroy. There was no clear way for her to contribute to the investigation in any way without revealing the OG Looking Glass's personal accounts that he had entrusted to her. So, when she received a handwritten letter by Jackson Brickton himself, inviting her to a meeting at his company's headquarters, included with a business card and the instruction to call the number on it, Clea was extremely skeptical at first. The timeline of events started to come together, but his motive was still unclear. With no other options, she called the number and scheduled the appointment. Now, here's a little music break while I round out all the line art. Enjoy! And ta-da! Now that we are done with the line art, let's move on to the flat color while I finish telling you Clea's story. A week later, she went in to meet with Brickton. She was surprised to find that he looked much younger than he did in the pictures. Even though he wasn't more than 4 years younger than her, he had the appearance of a teenager almost. His overall demeanor was friendly, bordering on giddy as he shook Clea's hand and ushered her into his office. At the risk of cluing Brickton in on the fact that she was suspicious of him, Clea did not use her mirrored vision, as it was a very obvious thing when she did. You see, her entire eye, that normally looks grayish because blindness, turns into a pane of glass almost in appearance and then shatters.
It's a very odd sight to just see randomly in a meeting, so she avoided it, instead trying to follow her grandfather's investigative tactics. So she sat back in her chair and let the young man go on and on about his ideas for the future and how they could involve her, without ever asking would she be interested in involvement in the first place, which also clued Clea into the fact that he kind of only thought of the outcome of this and not how to get her to agree to it, but besides the point. As he kept talking, Brickton took several pauses in order to slow down and try to calmly explain himself, rather than ramble, as he kept getting excited and talking faster and louder, like a child trying to explain his new idea. When he was done, he finally looked towards Clea expectantly, waiting for questions. Instead, all she asked him was, why? Which seemed to catch Brickton off guard. He was obviously expecting some more in-depth questions about the plan itself, and not his motives. Why do you want to do all this? She asked again, to which he straightened his back and confidently said, I can see a better version of the world, and this is how I believe I can make it a reality. And all of this with your help, Miss Sharde.
Hello, quick note from editor Clara here. I just wanted to go on and apologize for taking so long with this video. When I posted my last one, I really did intend to get this one out in a week or so, but a lot of stuff came up with school and just a lot of life happened, and I just couldn't get the video out in time. But as the semester is ending and finals are coming to a close, I really do hope to be starting a very regular posting schedule, especially with the summer coming up and me having plenty of free time to devote to you guys in the channel. And I also wanted to give a big thank you to my first, as of now, 10 subscribers. And thank you so much for putting your faith in me and my channel and what I want to do here. I really do want to thank all of you who are signing up for this journey with me as I continue to try to put out new stories and videos every couple of weeks. So thank you again, and I'm sorry for taking so long with this one. But let's get back to the story, and then I have a little message for y'all at the end. Clea, not wanting to accept Brickton's help, set out on her own to try and solve the string of crimes that closely resembled her grandfather's nemesis. But while doing further research, she soon found that all records were sealed and not available to the public. Reluctantly, she called Brickton back, knowing that if anyone could get access to them, it would be him. Alrighty folks, I hope we're liking the story thus far, and as we come to a close with our flat color section, we are about to embark on our shading and lighting, which will be the final portion of our drawing before we wrap this video up. In the weeks that followed, Clea got to know the young man more and more as he continued to share his various plans with her. He kept iterating that since she is the first in a generation, branding would be a major player in the successful launch of her hero career. Later, she met a woman by the name of Edna, whom just was a few years older than Clea herself. Edna spoke of heroes' names, costumes, and gimmicks that would work with Clea's glass thing, as she called it. After about a dozen suggestions, Clea finally suggested that they could just use Looking Glass. After her grandfather, seeing as it went perfectly with the legacy status Brickton clearly wanted to lean into. Then, training. As a superhero, combat was an important part of the job. As the three of them spent more and more time together, Clea continued investigating the string of crimes that just kept growing in their area. Still, she did not bring it up to the others, though. Brickton, for all his speeches about the importance of heroism and presenting the very best image for this new age, was not without his flaws. Clea kept getting the feeling that he was hiding something.
something big and important. But no amount of the genuine kindness that he radiated could stifle her suspicion of him. So when he finally asked for a demonstration of her powers, she took the opportunity to find out once and for all what he was truly about. As Clea went through each and every move in her skill set, her nervousness grew, knowing what was coming. She went in and out of her glass form, startling and possibly scarring the others, as she also demonstrated the fact that she can break her arm off and reattach it while in that form. She also let it slip that in this state, while mostly invulnerable, was not without its flaws. She then explained that if a piece of the glass gets lost while detached from her body, it would cause horrific side effects to the limb it was lost from. The original Looking Glass had learned this the hard way and made a point to instill that same fear in her in hopes that she wouldn't meet the same fate. Finally, the time came to show off her final card by revealing that her sightless eye had its own benefits. Though as to not scare Brigden off, she didn't fully explain what exactly she could do. Clea closed her eyes and then revealed only her left eye, and knew by their surprised gasps that Edna and Brigden had seen her iris break apart like glass itself. But that wasn't the best part, for what Clea was seeing through those broken shards was far more intriguing. In the mirrored version of the world, she saw nothing but a greedy man and a callous woman using Clea for selfish means. With the confirmation she needed, Clea was finally ready to share all of her suspicions with Brigden and Edna. And with the assurance that they were doing the right thing for the world, she was finally ready to accept the name of Looking Glass, just like her grandfather had before her, to hopefully put a stop to the very crimes that her grandfather once had fought and used his life to stop. And with the new friends she had made by her side, she was ready to save the world. As we come to a stopping point, the drawing is almost complete, and as the final details go in, I am happy to tell you that the story is far from over, and Brigden's past will be revealed soon. I really hope you guys like the finished piece. I worked very hard on it and improved on my art skills a lot during the process. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I am so glad that I was able to share this story with you, and I really hope you'll join me next time as I explain more. Oh, and just in case I forgot, Clea's villain's name is